together. We could be alone together. We could be alone together. We could be alone together. We all are living on a chance we take. We all are waiting for our lives to change.
Good morning and welcome to Proud to Be, an exclusive Inclusive Companies event in partnership with Auto Trader and Black Leaders UK. For those of you who may not be familiar, my name's Hayley and I'm the Director of Operations at Inclusive Companies Limited. It wouldn't usually be myself stood here today welcoming you all. However, our CEO is currently enjoying a well-deserved break in Jamaica, celebrating Jamaican Independence Day after another really busy year. So unfortunately, he can't be with us today. I think this is the first event that Paul's ever missed, and I know he's gutted to not be with us today, but he does send his apologies and extends his thanks to all who have joined. Today's event is in celebration of Black History Month, an annual monthly observance that recognises the experiences, journeys and achievements of Black communities and individuals. As always, Inclusive Companies remain committed to the advancement of Black inclusion, both within the workplace and across society. Celebrating Black history and accelerating inclusivity for the Black community is not something that should just be celebrated 1 month of the year. 31 days out of 365 is not enough. That is why Inclusive Companies and Black leaders have set about creating change, implementing a number of Black-related initiatives such as Black Inclusion Week and the Black Inclusion Index to ensure that Black inclusion stays high on the agenda all year round. There's still so much work to be done, but we're really proud of the journey that we've taken so far, and we will continue to drive this forward. It's a pleasure to once again partner with the fantastic team at Auto Trader to deliver today's crucial event and to be joined by a stellar lineup of influential speakers and panellists who you will all hear from very shortly. We have a really exciting itinerary for you all today, and I know that we're really keen to just dive straight in. So I'm now going to hand you over to today's wonderful host and leave you in her very capable hands. Founder of Open Mind Training and Development Limited, the Women's Awards, and Inspiring You CIC, today's host brings more than 30 years' experience and knowledge spanning a wide range of sectors. An international speaker, author, and equality activist, please give a warm welcome to Sandra Pollock OBE.
To be here. So good morning to all of you. Good morning, everyone. It's wonderful to be here today. And this is a really exciting time for us. We not only have a virtual audience, but we are thrilled to have people with us in the studio here for the first time in ages. Give yourselves a round of applause. Absolutely awesome to have people here. So welcome to you all. As part of their calendar of events, Inclusive Companies have aligned with a host of other organizations this year to deliver topics focused on mental health and well-being, mental awareness, International Women's Day, trans inclusion in the workplace, and much more. Today, we partner with Auto Trader UK and Black Leaders to deliver a special event in honor of Black History Month. Inspired by the official Black History Month theme, Proud to Be, we are going to look at that today in our time. We're going to explore this important topic, and we're also going to delve into the Black experience from various cultural aspects and viewpoints. And whatever you're doing, you get a chance to join us with delving into these things. First celebrated in the UK in 1987, Black History Month is marked annually here in the UK in October. And we take this crucial opportunity to reinvigorate the message of being proud to be your authentic self. And I know for me, that's something that is an ongoing thing where we're constantly finding out, well, who am I in all these different guises that we wear. But today, if you've never thought of it, I want you to just say in your head, sorry, I'm a coach. It comes out all the time. Okay. I want you to say, I am proud to be my authentic self. So, you know, we're looking for change. Today we partner, as I say, with Auto Trader UK, Black leaders, to deliver this special event. The thing that we want to look at is the diversity of it all. Diversity is a key priority within organisations all over the country, or so it should be. Yet, diverse talent is still underrepresented at all levels. The business case for establishing diversity hiring in the UK has been well established. There are surveys out there, not only in the UK, but all over the world. Employers have scrambled to take advantage of the varying cultures, backgrounds, and different ways of thinking that diversity brings. Why is it then, we ask, that when we analyse the FTSE 100, it has revealed widespread commitment from employers to take action on racial disparity. And this all came about in the wake of the Black Lives Matters protest last summer, 2020. Yet, when we look at the data, there is no real hard results. We need to look at that. Why is that happening? And what can we do about it? You know, there are only 13 FTSE 100 leaders that publish their ethnic pay gap. 13 brave. What's happening with the rest of them? Sandra's asking. But even in that does give us some shocking results. Whilst it's important to recognise that there is still a long way to go, today we not only want to look at addressing some of these barriers, but also we want to ensure that we celebrate the beauty and diversity of different Black cultures. And what a treat we have in store for you. So we will be joined by a host of powerful panellists shortly, and we encourage ourselves and you to engage in learning, reflection, and also that all-important commitment to taking action, but action that makes a difference. So our speakers will be sharing their journeys and will give an insight into their lived experiences from different perspectives, and we'll also enter into a live Q&A with our audience as we look to explore the role of allies, how to challenge racist behaviour in the workplace, and much more. For our virtual audience, throughout this morning, I'd like to encourage you, please do drop your questions and your comments in the chat box. They will be picked up. For our audience that are with us in person today, have a think about what is it that you'd really like to get out of today's event. We'll be coming back to you on that point later on in the session. But everybody, we would like to invite you to join in the conversation on Twitter. So make sure that you tweet us using @InclusiveAwards and @AutoTraderLife, #ProudToBe. We'll be keeping a look on what's going on in social media shortly. Well, coming up, I'm really excited about what we're going to share with you now. We have Don't Worry About a Thing. Now, this is a commissioned piece on Black joy, and here to share with us a unique and standout piece of storytelling using the power of spoken word. Please join me by welcoming on stage performance artist and producer Keisha Thompson.
hello. Can you hear me? Cool. Hiya. You alright? You can speak back. Cool. Yeah, so this piece is called Don't Worry About a Thing. And please forgive me, I've got a little bit of a sore throat, but I'm pushing through. Sorry, I'm going to have to start again. Do you forgive me? Got thrown off there. It's like, what? Okay, go. Don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing is gonna be alright. Don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing gonna be alright. Don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing is gonna be alright. I woke up this morning. Oh, it's Rise. 3 little birds beside my doorstep. Oh, it's window. Is it window? Singing sweet songs of melodies and tune. This is my message to you. I used to love that song until one karaoke night. I got it completely wrong. My friend Jamie and I We were the only brown ones in the herd. So you could say that the pressure was on for us to do a good rendition of Three Little Birds. And I guess I'd already started to create a bit of doubt because I was searching for Don't Worry About a Thing with Absolute Clout.
But that's not the actual name of...
The karaoke master pointed out. A schoolgirl error you can't really get away with if you're half Jamaican. And I guess that's the thing that tripped us up, thinking we knew the words to this song by, like, genetic luck. We just assumed that this song was something we inherently knew, but, you know, because of our heritage and that. But turns out we didn't have a clue. We were sat in the swankiest room of K2, all mirrored walls and red carpeted booths. There was more bottles of alcohol than there were studded shoes. And this group was a mojito of birthday banter and bougie attitudes. So obviously we tried to lighten the mood. Belted out the chorus with full gusto, don't worry about a thing. But those verses, proper deceptive, both in word and flow, boy, it was just so embarrassing. We managed to pass it off with, you know, some nudges and giggles, but honestly, inside, I was anxiety riddled. And God knows why, but half of me was expecting the ghost of Bob Marley to turn up and say that I couldn't eat plantain. It's weird when, like, the seemingly unimportant things manage to get to you. A feeling that hits your gut before your brain can think it through. Karaoke's bittersweet for me. I can never seem to win. I'm pretty sure this is the experience of anyone who can actually sing. Either you have to pretend that you're not that good, so you avoid attracting attention, or you risk looking arrogant and annoying everyone with your pitch perfect intention. But I love singing. Have done since I was little. So it pains me when I have to hold it in. But like I said, in this context, my best notes, they always fall flat. So popular and ironic is my usual plan of attack. Like when I did a sarcastic cover of What's New Pussycat. What's new, pussycat? Whoa, whoa, whoa. What's new, pussycat? Whoa, whoa, whoa. Pussycat, pussycat, I love you. Yes, I do. Until this girl said,
I'd expect someone like you to do something better than that.
someone like me. It wasn't quite clear what she meant, but I feel like I knew what she was getting at. When it's subtle and from a stranger, I can usually let it ride off my back. The worst is when it's from a friend. Like the one who pulled me up and asked me to
Sing something black.
But my skin's not a genre. I should have replied. But instead, I let her pick an old classic from Destiny's Child. Now that you're out of my life, I'm so much better. For that I'd be weak without you, but I'm stronger. For that I'd be broke without you, but I'm richer. For that I'd be sad without you, I love harder. For that I would grow without you, but I'm wiser. For that I'd be helpless without you, but I'm smarter. For that I'd be stressed without you, but I'm chilling. For I wouldn't sell without you, so my millions. I'm a survivor, I'm not gonna give up, I'm not gonna stop. I'm gonna work harder, I'm a survivor, I'm gonna make it, I'm not gonna stop. Keep on surviving, I'm a survivor, I'm not gonna give up, I'm not gonna stop. I'm gonna work harder, I'm a survivor, I'm gonna make it, I'm not gonna stop. Keep on surviving, I'm a survivor, I'm not gonna give up, I'm not gonna stop. I'm gonna work harder, I'm a survivor, I'm gonna make it, I'm not gonna stop. Keep on surviving, I'm a survivor, I'm not gonna give up, I'm not gonna stop. I'm gonna work harder, I'm a survivor, I'm gonna make it, I'm not gonna stop. Keep on surviving, I'm a survivor, I'm not gonna give up, I'm not gonna stop. I'm gonna work harder, I'm a survivor, I'm gonna make it, I'm not gonna stop. What? You are? What? 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 I don't really talk to that friend anymore. The odd like on Facebook, yeah, but anything else feels like a chore. You see, after that Destiny's Child track, she decided to put on Kanye West, Gold Digger. And I don't think she thought that it would be a trigger, even though the word was cut out and replaced with 3 stars and an A. It's hard to explain, but it still wasn't okay. And we sang along, and she never let that word come out of her mouth, but it didn't stop some of her other friends letting it slip out.
By accident.
They said.
I'm just saying what's on the screen.
Another laughed. I was hot, I was cold, I was red, I was numb. Finally left the room when someone said,
Oh, we're just having a bit of fun.
fun. Fun. I know what fun feels like. It's like when I sing and it feels like I'm channeling the mid-morning sun. From my school assembly to Manchester Soul Choir days, singing with Kalinka bands at the RNCM, I am never more myself than when I've got a song in my lungs, from gospel wedding gigs to siphoning alleyways, pretending that my name is Homeboy. Never fails to give me absolute joy. Whether I'm stood with 20 others in full harmony, in sync, or making up silly songs as I'm washing my dishes over the kitchen sink. So it pains me when I'm in pursuit of it and it twists me up like a Lauryn Hill lyric. Can't help but think about all those moments when I didn't have the right lines. How I wish I could just go back in time and say, my skin is not a genre that you can compact. Do you understand the spectrum of what it means to be a singer that is black? I should have said, what do you mean? Leanne La Havas or Tupac? Little Richard or Bobby Womack? Block Party or Nina Simone? Goldie or Grace Jones? Joan Armatrading or Polystyrene? Samuel Taylor Coleridge or Benjamin Clementine? Khalees or Marvin Gaye? Wizkid or Corinne Bailey Rae? JLS or Janelle Monáe? Stormzy or Beyonce? The Four Tops or Rhapsody? Seal or Fela Kuti? Jimi Hendrix or Kendrick Lamar? Skunk Anansi or Sun Ra? Sampha? or Celia Cruz, or Afro Deutsch, or Erykah Badu? Which one of them sums up blackness for you? Because I love my skin and my heritage and my culture because it's more than one person can discover. It's not something that can be reduced or selected like a karaoke cover. So I could keep listing, but that won't bring us much resolve. I will not sour into acid rain just to dissolve these poor perceptions. They're not my problem to solve. The best I can do in these situations is radical self-involve. Seek out the things that make me feel most free. Indulge in things that allow me to simply be, and I know it sounds cliched and super cheesy, but it works. So I don't really care if you don't believe me in this climate of performative justice and genuine change. I have to find the things that don't make me feel so strange. Closing my eyes and landing on a memory that will consume, like pretending I'm Matilda in my childhood living room. My favourite part in the whole film, I'm sure you can remember, she's alone in the house, orchestrating all the dishes, the tools, the furniture, everything is just flying around her. As she stands in the centre, flaunting her harmless power. Tell me a story that happened long ago. Come a little pretty one, I've been watching you grow. Tell me a story that happened long ago. Come a little pretty one, I've been watching you grow. Tell me a story that happened long ago. Come a little pretty one, I've been watching you grow. Tell me a story that happened long ago. Come a little pretty one, it's gonna be alright. Tell me a story happened long ago. Come a little pretty one, it's gonna be alright. Tell me a story happened long ago. 'Cause every little thing is gonna be alright. Thank you. apologies about my sore throat.
That was excellent. Absolutely excellent. Wow. I was really looking forward to that, and I certainly have not come away disappointed. How can someone put the experiences of many people into such an amazing piece of art? So blown away. Thank you, Keisha. What an amazing mix of poetic monologue, song, and inspiration, both to get us thinking, trigger our thoughts, reflect on what some of our colleagues, friends, and acquaintances might go through by just a word, just something seemingly innocent. Just before I ask us to give Keisha another round of applause, I want to share a little bit about who she is for those who may not know her. So Keisha Thomas is a senior manager of young people, children, young people, and learning at Arts Council England, chair of radical arts funding body Futures Venture Foundation, a MOBO and London Theatre Consortium Fellow, and a member of Greater Manchester Cultural and Heritage Group. Keisha is also the recipient of the Arts Foundation Theatre Makers Award 2021. Another round of applause for Keisha Thompson. That was amazing, absolutely awesome. And I won't embarrass any of our audiences that we can see, but I could see the expressions on your faces as she was working through that amazing piece. Thank you again. And I hope, if nothing else, it gets us to reflect and think about the Black experience that our colleagues could be going through. And this is what this is all about, to get us thinking more deeply and more clearly. So just a quick reflection on how it's going on social media. We're getting a great response out there, so I just want to remind you to join us, tweet with us. I can put my teeth in, maybe I'll be able to talk better. So a tweet, and if you're going to tweet with us, use at Inclusive Awards and also at Autotrader Life and hashtag Proud to Be. Well, it's finally time for our widely anticipated panel segment, encompassing a mixture of individuals from different backgrounds and professions who will kindly be sharing with us their different experiences and why they are proud to be. So before I introduce our panelists, I want to introduce my partner in crime today, co-chair with me. I'm delighted to have Nathan Dyke. Nathan, over there in the corner. That's Nathan. There, thank you. So Nathan is also co-chair of the Auto Trader BAME network. Nathan, you just want to say a quick hello and a little bit about you? I'm not sure if his mic's on. I should have warned him before.
Mic check. Didn't know this was coming. But, yes, Nathan Dyke, co-chair of the BAME network at Auto Trader. And for us, I know that BAME is a bit of a controversial title or label, but for us it's about building a multicultural environment. So when we first formed the network, it was really about creating a frame of reference that everyone could connect behind and push forward on, and everything that we do is around that, and creating an environment that everyone feels they can be at home in and can achieve great success. So.
Yeah, great. So one of the things that you also do, which I'm really pleased when I learned about, is that you feed into the decision-making element of your organisation, don't you?
Yeah, I didn't know this was coming either. But yeah, essentially, I guess it's about sharing the experiences, the lived experiences of our colleagues, not just myself, but of the network as well, to really help be a part of the solutions. One of my sort of favourite mantras is, you don't know what you don't know, and in many places where the decisions are being made, the lived experiences aren't there. So it's about the networks, about everyone stepping up and sharing and feeding into those decision-making rooms to, create those solutions. So, yeah. Yeah,
great. Good answer, Nathan. Okay, so what Nathan's also going to be doing, he's going to be keeping his eye on, that's why he's got his laptop, keeping his eye on the conversations, the questions, the comments going on from our virtual audience. So again, those of you who are joining us virtually, drop your comments, questions, that sort of stuff, and we will do our best to bring them to the panel. So, okay, so joining us in the various hot seats as our panelists today is Chloe Davis, David Villa-Clark, BEM, and Ifra Sama. I always do this. And my claim is I'm dyslexic, so there you go, over the letters. So Ifra Samatar.
There you go.
There you go. So you get there in the end. So welcome to all of you. So before we get into the panel discussion, what I'm going to do is allow each of our panelists to sit in the hot spot. Not only the hot seat, the spotlight, but the hot spot. And I'm inviting you, when you get your 5 minutes, and I'm warning them that I've got a gong somewhere that I'm going to say 5 minutes is up. 5 minutes to tell us about themselves. Tell us, what you do. Tell us about what you're into, and also share a little bit of your story. Now, after they've all done that, we're going to then get into the question inside of things. But it's always good to find out who we're dealing with, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. So we're going to get started with Chloe Davis. Yeah, you knew you were coming. Hey, Chloe.
Hi, everyone. It's lovely to be here. And I'm not sure where the camera is, but hi, everyone that's watching at home. My name's Chloe Davies. So I'll do the day job first. So I'm head of social impact for Lucky Generals, who are a creative agency. And we do some really groundbreaking work in the advertising and marketing space with our clients. But also we have been a creative agency who have been social impact and change makers for a very long time. They were the first agency to introduce rainbow laces with Stonewall. So I joined in September, and as someone who's openly bisexual, was a really great place to know that they actually had already done stead into my community, and they really knew who I was and what that meant. Like I said, I'm bisexual, I'm black, I'm a cisgender woman. I class myself as a mental health survivor. So it doesn't, I don't live with it, it lives with me. That's how I class it. And I'm also a working parent, so I'm a mum of two. I have, Miles is 5. He is autistic and nonverbal and a bit of a superhero. And Theo is 4. And he is the troublemaker of my family. He inherited all of my personality.
I was going to say that.
He got all of my personality. And yeah, I guess, a little bit about me. I started in retail. My mum was a department manager at Peter Jones. She was the first black department manager. And when I was 16 and 4 days, Dave and I were laughing about this with our children, my mum cut off my allowance. She said, you start on Saturday, don't embarrass me. And I was manager by 17. I had been part of the John Lewis. They're very robust for their training scheme. And I did that for about 10 years. I actually ended up in Manchester. So we opened the Trafford store, and then I had a dual site role at Cheadle and Trafford. And then I went back to London. And after about 16 years in retail, and I'd done, a host of other things, PR. I've always been a foodie. My dad and my grandma have been teaching me how to cook since I was 3, so I'm a chef.
Can you cook yet? Oh, okay. Just
checking. If I didn't know I needed to bring stuff, but I'll give you proof.
Okay.
I'll definitely give you proof. So I started my own business when I literally left retail. I had a friend who said, will you make me some cake? I'm creative, so I made 4, and he said, oh, you've got 7 orders for cake, and I was like, shut up. And he said, no, you got 7 orders for cake, and so that's how it started. But then I found out that I was pregnant, and gosh, I'm like 5 minutes. How much do I say? I've got really bad polycystic ovaries, so for 8 years I was basically told you will be infertile if you ever want to have children. It'll be via IVF. So I stopped thinking about it. So this idea that I was suddenly pregnant with Miles is my miracle baby, and really thinking about what does that do for me as a parent, but also a black woman and someone who's LGBT, how does that work? So I had a friend who said, come and volunteer with me for a pride organisation, and I did, and I moved my way up through that organisation, and that organisation was Pride in London. And I left very much for the reasons that you see now today, which was it had a serious issue with racism and discrimination, and it was a place that caused me serious harm. I had always been liaison for UK Black Pride, and Lady Phil said, Chloe, it's time to come home. And I did, and I've been volunteering with UK Black Pride ever since. They're my chosen family, and they really keep me strong, keep me in line, keep it real with me. They're a wonderful, amazing team that I get to work alongside with and volunteer with under her leadership and the board. I'm also a volunteer for London Queer Fashion Show. I'm trying to remember everything. So I'm head of relations. I'm a trustee for London LGBT Community Centre, and I'm an ambassador for Mental Health First Aid England.
Wow. And do you sleep?
Yeah. apparently. I think it's that last bit. You talk about how we pride of ourselves. For me, this is how I show up and keep myself true.
Awesome.
It might seem like a lot, but actually it's just kind of doing what you do for community, and that's what actually drives me. So
That's
I
amazing.
sleep at some point.
Wow, amazing. Thank you so much. Well done, absolutely. So our next panelist then, David Villa-Clark, BEM.
That's me.
That's you.
Come on.
And he came in hugging everybody.
Oh, yeah?
So if you're here and you've not had a hug, hey, I'm sure he'll be happy to give you one later. So David, tell us a little bit about your journey.
Ooh,
and about
where do I
you.
start? So actually,
5 minutes,
I'll follow your lead and start in terms of work. So I do a number of things. So day job, I'm the chief executive of the Alito Foundation. We work with young people from tough reality backgrounds, and we actually help them get into their careers of choice. So if you actually imagine coming from a tough reality background, you've got no sense of actually what it looks like to work in a city. You don't see people who look like you. None of your family members are there. None of your family members have been to university. You're the first one to do it. Where do you start? Well, come to us. We look after you. So we've got 700 alumni, and we run leadership programs throughout the years, and we give them a mentoring program and a wonderful experience. And that experience really is about community and family. So that's part of my day job. I also run my own financial advice practice, which means that I'm a financial advisor, and I give advice to people on mortgages, investments, pensions, financial planning, inheritance tax as well. I'm also a referee at the weekends. Now, people think, why do you want to be a referee? I love abuse. Bring it on. Come on. Come on, give it to me. You know, I have got an answer and a put down for everything that someone says to me. So I absolutely love that at the weekend.
You need to write a book and put that in.
Not yet. Yeah, and I kind of came into that because I used to be a football coach for a couple of teams, but as my son moved on, I just thought, how do I stay connected with the young people in terms of doing that? I'm also the founder of Project Volunteer, a charity that I set up 16 years ago, working with orphans in Botswana. I'm not from Botswana. I don't have the time to tell the story, but it's out there on TEDx. But for me, when I founded Project Volunteer in Botswana, I was looking for something to do, working with children from a disadvantaged background. And I landed in Africa and just found the most wonderful humanitarian, a guy called Derek James, who's a white South African. And he just opened my eyes, and he opened my eyes to actually understanding and realising that although I thought I grew up in a poor background, that there are people who are worse off than you, who actually need some help. And actually imagine being an orphan. You know, it's just really, really tough. But I've been doing it for 16 years, absolutely love it, it's fantastic. And that's me. I'm 53. I'm a Capricorn. Well, some people are into star signs and they need to know that. Now, I live out in Surrey after growing up in East London, so one of 3 black families in North Woolwich. Baptism of fire, you learn to run or you learn to fight because you're near the docks. We ran most of the time. But you know what? I think when I look back on my upbringing, I'm here today. Yeah, I'm grateful for all the opportunities that I've received. I'm grateful for the kindness of strangers. I'm also grateful for the people who were racist and against me, because it makes you actually understand yourself better. You know, it puts you in a position whereby you're looking that individual in the eye and you're actually wondering what's going on in their mind. Where does that come from? Because I can tell you this now: nobody is born racist. Yeah, nobody is born racist. Nobody is born hating someone else. So there's things that actually happen. And that's me.
Wonderful.
There we go.
Great, thank you. Okay, so what's the BEM?
The
What was that
British
for?
Empire Medal. So
Yes.
I got that for services to charity and sports and coaching and after schools clubs. And I mean, I didn't get it, the team got it, because basically they really helped me bring Project Volunteer forwards. And I suppose I really got it because, you know, as a football coach and a volunteer, you're always an unsung hero. So who wants to be tying up a snotty kid's lace on a Saturday morning when it's wet and, you know, the ball's just thumping and such? But I love doing it, so
Wonderful.
you know, for me, it's just fun.
Congratulations
Thank you
on
very
that.
much.
Thank
Cheers.
you. Wonderful. And my
Yes. Say it better this
say
time.
it better
Shut up.
this time. You say it better this time. Okay. Ifra Samatar is our next panelist. So Ifra, tell us a little bit about you, about your journey, and similarly, 5 minutes, please.
Thank
So
you.
we have to warn Ifra. She gets so passionate about stuff. Okay.
I arrived this morning and I had about 7 pages of notes.
See?
And I just went to everyone and I said, do you think this is enough for 5 minutes? So I had to do like major practice to calm it all down. And then as we were all just sitting and talking and listening and that beautiful performance, I realized there's this idea that being a black woman and being, you know, in a certain environment, sometimes you have to feel like you have to introduce yourself in a way you're like, I really need to impress. I really make sure everyone needs to know like what I stand for. Otherwise, you might be less than everybody else. And that's really sad in a society that we live in. That's a mentality. But I don't have to. I'm amongst family and friends, and that's absolutely fine. But briefly, I wear hats since I stepped down from education. Full-time teacher that I used to be for a long time, as well as a youth worker, as well as a mentor. Those hats were something that I've worn for about 12 years, and I absolutely loved them. And for health reasons, I'm also a mental health survivor, and I really loved what you said, that it lives with me rather than me living with myself. That was really powerful. For those reasons, I had to realize that I needed to step back a bit. I was so focused on fighting the system than teaching the children, if that makes sense. Because in some of the notes that I was reflecting on last night about what Black History Month means to me, I was thinking about how when we look at school and the way Black History Month is marked in education, if you walk into any school in the UK this month, I guarantee you'll see pictures of Martin Luther King, Nelson Mandela, Rosa Parks, year after year after year, repeated all over. But to me, Black history is not just putting posters up everywhere. It's about actually teaching children British Black history, their own Black history. And so when I just had to be forced to robotically deliver that year after year, I just realized that this curriculum is carefully crafted in a way that's not really here to educate children, but just prepare them for a workforce of God knows what. So stepping back was really hard, but it was something that I had to do. But in a way, it was quite a blessing, because by doing that, I got to explore what mental health really meant in terms of me as somebody living with it, but in terms of my community as someone who's an activist, as someone who's, one of the roles that I have is the vice chair of the inclusive communities in the Black Leaders Network, founded in the middle of the Black Lives Matter movement that was happening in 2020. A lot of people, organizations, and everybody did the hashtags and made proclamations, but incredible Black leaders got together and said, right, we need action, and we need to actually bring people together and plan something. And in the short time that our team has been together, we developed a leadership program with the Open University to raise the aspirations of young and upcoming Black leaders, which is something that I'm very, very proud of. And so that, as well as being part of Mind and working on mental health campaign as a peer, and kind of taking ownership of mental health instead of fearing it, instead of shameful aspect of it. So that's what, my lockdown has been. And so seeing people is amazing. And being part of the conversation here today is really amazing. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, Ifra. Thank you very much. So we're going to start putting some questions to you guys, which I know you're prepared for. They have no idea what the questions are, mind you. And my co-chair is going to be keeping an eye on your questions, if you're putting any questions out there.
We've got a gem already.
We've got a gem?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
I'm tempted now.
We'll
with it.
save
Okay.
that. We'll save that towards the end.
Okay, David.
Yes.
You're an entrepreneur, as you say. You are building your business, making connections, also working in the corporate arena. How do you maintain this being your authentic self? And when you encounter it, how do you challenge racism in the workplace? So 2 questions there for you.
Yeah. So being my authentic self is actually quite easy now that I'm 53, because once you get past a certain age and a stage in your career, you don't care what people think or what they do, and particularly when you're in your own business, you can do it how you want to do it. But it's not always been that way. So as I've said, I've been in financial services over 25 years, and I've been in rooms where the N-word's been used, right, openly, and no one said anything. And because I was so junior, what did I do? Rather than challenge it, just shrunk into myself. Couldn't say anything. And then someone would take me outside, or someone, actually 2 occasions it happened, and said, "Are you okay?" Now, what can I say? I said, "Oh, it's, it's horrible." I said, "Oh, don't worry, I'll have a word." So then it's very difficult to be your authentic self, because I know, I've got 4 brothers, and we're all different. So my younger brother, Mark's a bit more militant. So Mark would have reached across the table, grabbed the guy by the neck, dragged him down, which is not necessarily the right way, but it is a way of dealing with that sort of racism. But keeping quiet is also not the way in terms of doing it. And it needs to be called out, but not just by the person it happens to, but by everyone in the room, because everyone knows it's not right. Everyone would have felt the pain that I felt at the time the person used the word, but nobody did anything. Whereas now, actually, if I hear anything that's not just racist, but sexist, it's very easy to call out. Excuse me, what did you mean by that? And that's the first thing. That's the question. What did you mean by that? And let people check themselves. Because, sorry, I didn't mean, or as the young lady said earlier, I was only joking. It was only banter. Banter for who? Yeah? And then you then start to report it up the line, so people actually start to see it as serious. Yeah? And when they see it as serious, all of a sudden their behaviour changes. Yeah. Now, it may go under the cover and be a little bit covert, but it changes. And the reason why it's important to change is that the workplace is a place for all. Yeah. So that's the first one.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And I love that tip that you've given there as well. So, and being probably older than all of you sat in here,
of course,
probably all of in the room as well. Okay, thank you. I agree with that. You do tend to change as you get older. You realise that all the things that you were stressed about, nobody cares. No one's thinking about you. Everybody's busy thinking about themselves. So you learn to step forward, certainly a bit more. So I'm going to sort of put the same question to you, Chloe, but more from the perspective of your LGBT life and experience. How do you maintain this and become your authentic self and showcase your authentic self? And how do you deal with the racism or LGBT issues?
Well, you can't, you can't separate. When we talked about last year, we talked about the Black Lives Matter movement. You can't talk about Black lives without talking about Black LGBTQ plus people. So it's twofold. The more marginalised you are, the more you have to educate, but also the more that you have to take. So, my previous role, I worked for my G-Work, and, my role was training and development, so working with about 250 organisations on LGBT inclusion and how they talk about LGBTQ plus people in the workplace, but understanding the nuance that comes based on different identities. So if you are Black and you're bisexual, or you're Black and you're trans, or you're Black and you're gay, and then even within the trans community, it's that education part of actually, this is what the different identities mean, this is who the different people are, this is how your policies and your procedures must reflect how we take care of those people in the workplace. And sometimes it's as simple as, how do we support people in the business with the structure, and how do we create a place of inclusion where actually everyone feels like they can show up? Because being authentic is one thing, but actually feeling like you can show up at work and knowing that that is taken care of and that is celebrated and supported, but your structure is inclusive of that. I think that's the first journey. So before we can kind of talk about, well, how can you be your authentic self as an LGBTQ person? Are you also a place where we can actually call out racism within the workplace, where we can call out discrimination based on your identity, and that won't be used against you in either fold? But also, if I use myself as an example, where you can talk about it as a working parent too, because again, I can't separate any parts of my identity just based on what somebody else is comfortable with.
Yeah.
And I think it's very much that educational piece that was so much more of a spotlight last year, that still continues to be a spotlight and isn't going to go away. So I think, to kind of back what you were both saying, with age comes that kind of, I don't care, just deal with it. But I think we've also got to a point in life where the covers have truly come off well and truly, and now it's about having open and honest conversations, sometimes very difficult and uncomfortable conversations, and everyone truly being okay with that, because the more marginalised that you are, we have lived in that space for so long that it's now everybody else that's catching up. So it's about how do we create spaces to have difficult and uncomfortable conversations.
And you use this phrase, show up. You know, and this is a phrase which I'm sure we've all heard and we all use. But if you can just quickly say, what do you mean by showing up? What does that mean for you?
It's individual for everyone. I can only use myself. You know, showing up for me is, you know, even when I don't feel great, actually feeling like I'm in a space that I can talk about that, where I can say, like this morning, I didn't want to wake up at 4:45, and I had to do the slide and roll with my son in the bed. But it's that getting into the mood for myself, where actually I feel like I can be myself, and I can take accountability for myself, and I feel confident in the space, even if I don't feel confident in my body, but I can feel confident in my words. So it's how do we show up as an individual, and that will be different to every single person. But it's about creating a space where I can speak to that.
Absolutely. And creating that open space where whatever that showing up is for you as an individual, it's a safe space to do that. Because my belief is, and through my work, you know, over the years, I'm seeing it this way because I'm black. I know you hadn't noticed, but because I'm a black female. But you know, when we change things for two sets of people, when we change things for women, that has a roll-on effect on everybody. Everybody comes from a woman, so how do you hate women? Okay, it's another conversation. But when you change things positively for black people, everybody else seems to feel inclusive. That's been my experience. From all of my years of working in organizations and helping them to create that open space for conversation so that everybody can show up. You know, whether you're a parent struggling at home, you know, with your children or with looking after elders, you can show up in that space. So this is about creating a space for everybody, putting a focus on black people and what the historic challenges have been, but using that to create a space. Okay, for everybody. So I'm gonna shift the conversation. I think it has come up, but we're gonna shift the conversation just slightly. And I'm staying with you, Chloe. Okay. So how, and please don't let me forget that question. Okay. Okay. How important are allies? So we're talking about creating this space. How important are allies, and what does the role of the ally play?
So in a business perspective, because we talked about this in the briefing, and from a personal perspective, I have a different view. So I personally don't particularly like the word ally, simply because allyship can at times be passive. Anyone can say that they're an ally. For me, it's about how are you actually disrupting different identities, and I prefer the term co-disruptor. But from a work capacity, allies and why we have talked about it is so important, because as you said before, David, it's not always those who are most marginalised that should be responsible for talking about their very lived experience, utilising that in the workplace and society. We need others who can amplify our voices in that space, which also helps us to stay safe. So allies are so necessary, because it's how do we actually utilise, and it's a term that someone that actually volunteers in UK Black Pride, Josh, uses all the time, is how do we utilise identity? You know, how do we utilise who we are as people? And allies are so imperative to doing that. It's when we're not in those business spaces where the more senior that you go up in a business, the less you are of those most marginalised, those who are people of colour. And sometimes you need a sponsor for your LGBT community, or you need somebody else who sees you to advocate for you. For me, that's what allyship is. That's someone who sees what is great about you, what is special about you, and amplifies it in a space where you are not every day and always included. So allies can do something so very small, which is to take this whole conversation that you're listening to today and share it, and share that with somebody else. Or it might be opportunity, it might be your money, it might be resource, but it's about how do you do for others what they don't necessarily or cannot sometimes always do for themselves. For me, that's true allyship, and everyone will have a different way that they can come into it. But it's about active allyship, not performative allyship, not just saying you're an ally, but it's the actual doing.
It's the proof in the pudding, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we talked earlier on about, you know, the data, what the data shows. There was all of this, you know, excitement. Yes, we're gonna commit to doing this, but, you know, a year or so later, what's the evidence? So,
Sandra, can I just add on to that?
yes, please.
Just
Go
to,
on, Nathan.
just to put it on the spot. What would you say to someone who kind of goes down that all lives matter route of the conversation and to that, can't I just be nice to everyone and be inclusive to everybody? Why would I need to do anything different
Because
for?
not everybody is the same. And so it's about understanding each person as an individual and their lived experience. For me, anyone that's saying all lives matter, but we've gone down this journey before where we've amplified women, and we've done that through the women's movement. We've been doing it for 101 years. But it's understanding within the women's movement, there will be more nuance to black women as there will be to South Asian or Indian women. Depending on where you come into it, there will be a different lived experience that you have to understand the barriers that that particular person will face. So whilst, yes, all lives matter, there are some lives who are more at risk. And if we truly believe in amplifying society, then we're about understanding people, understanding how they can't show up and how we can make a difference.
That's great, a great answer. Yeah, I like that. And
Not my first radio. Like, it's not going to be me, Nathan.
so, Ifra, in terms of your work in the community, how do you see allyship, if I dare use that word, and is there any use for allies in your community work?
Of course, yeah. I was actually, since we kind of discussed briefly in our debrief, not debrief,
Pre-brief.
that's it. When we were talking about allyship, I was thinking about it throughout the train here and even like last night, and I was just like, as you said, there's something about the word BAME and the word like allyship. It just seems like words that we throw around. So what does it actually mean, and how do we reflect on it in community and everything that we do? And in a very simple sense, allyship simply to me means someone with privilege, someone with opportunities, someone with possibilities that uses their privilege, who helps those people who are in the minority. Another word that we don't like, but essentially just means using your abilities to lift others who don't quite have that opportunity, and kind of standing up for them and speaking up and showing up when the conversation calls for. So I was trying to figure out how that relates to the community work and everything that we do, and it has like a 5-step kind of things in my head. First of all, understanding. Understanding the experiences of everyone is different. Understanding that you might be going through something and you might be thinking, yes, all lives matter. However, everybody's struggles has to be looked at individually. And that's how you can be the best ally that you can be in the community. And then kind of empathizing with that. And as someone who wears a hijab, someone who's from a community that's daily targeted by the media and a lot of people who scapegoat my identity for clickbait, I have to be an ally for those who've got their own struggles separately. So when somebody says trans lives matter, I don't need to look into my religion kind of complexities of what that actually means, but a human being that's saying to me, Ifra, I'm fighting for the right to exist, for my identity to be acknowledged. And I say, yes, that does matter. And so we then look at, when you understand and then you empathize, and then, sorry, I made notes. This is how you know. This is how you know. The red is out, the notes are out, everything is out. Then you must acknowledge. You must acknowledge that there's a problem that needs to be, discussed, and we need to do something about it. And that's when that uncomfortable conversation and the truth comes out. And action, rather than performative solidarity and, allyship and all of that. And so then you review it. Is it working? Is it, what can we do better as an organization or as a wider society? How do we check that if it's working and going well?
Some Brilliant, amazing stuff there. I agree with everything. I should have written that out as you were saying it. That's excellent stuff. And you know, one of the points was going to be, and we'll bring that back later. How do corporations and individuals help to work through that? But we'll come back to that in a moment. But you've hit so many nails on the head with those 5 points that you've shared. So what have we got coming up on from our virtual audience, Nathan?
Since Ifra touched on the BAME and I guess terms, Ajibola threw in the gem of much debate about the term BAME with a viewpoint that it does not allow for underrepresented groups to truly be their authentic selves. Interested in the panel viewpoints on options.
Any thoughts on options? This one might need some serious thought, but I will put it out there. And yeah, please do, David.
So in my role as a financial advisor, I belong to a network, and we used to have a BAME network, and then the furore came out about the term BAME, and it triggered a lot of people. So we've changed it to Embrace, and Embrace is lovely because I mean you got one for me when you come.
I certainly did. I'm looking forward to another one afterwards.
But Embrace is a lovely word, and it really captures everybody. So I think from that perspective, so long as we understand what it is that we are trying to do, for me, I think just use the words that work for you. I'm not offended by someone calling me BAME. I'm a black man, but if you want to use the term BAME, good luck to you. It's fine. It's not going to trigger me. So for me, it's a play on language, whatever works for you.
Does Embrace, the letters mean anything, or is it just a word that you all agree to? Okay, that's really good. Yeah, we all like to be embraced, I hope. Any other thoughts?
I'm going.
She's struggling. You can see the twitching.
No, it's like I'm sat next to David, so I'm like, it's the energy. I think that as we have, language is powerful, and as we continue to be able to, as language continues to evolve and we be able to speak on our own behalves, I think that one of the issues from BAME, BAME, however you want to call it, is that it wasn't a term that was designed by people of colour, black and brown people. It was a term that was put on us. So I think as people choose to define themselves, like you said, you're a black man, I'm a black woman, I like to be called a black woman. Within my community, we will refer to our people as people of colour or black and brown people, and that's encompassing of people under the spectrum of what is politically black. So I think it's actually asking people of colour what they would prefer to be called, sometimes than actually putting what is categorically normally just based on the government structure or the actual wording. And I think it's about having those conversations, because as you said, it's about education, and it's that starting place of people who might not have an understanding, but as you grow, as you evolve, it's about you also changing your words based on where we are now today, and not necessarily where we were before. Some will be really comfortable with it, but others, and thinking about our younger generation, they want to be called exactly as they are. So it's how do we all evolve in that way too?
And life has a way of evolving. If we look back in historically, I remember my parents' day, that when they moved from Barbados and come.
All on you'd be a gen.
I'm gonna have to do this. Wait for it. I's be a gen.
All right.
Long conversation's going to happen after this. But in that day, the 50s and the 60s and that sort of stuff, they used the word colour. People used the word colour because they thought that was a better word than black. But then, there was a change, and there was that wider conversation, and black people decided, actually, I'm cool with black. And that changed. So you're absolutely right. I think there is this continual progression of growth, learning, and change, which were some of the things that we mentioned earlier on. Any other questions you want to throw our way?
Yes, absolutely. So there's a couple of questions that talk to challenging leadership around their diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. So that kind of covers off a few people have asked stuff around that.
So challenging leadership.
It's challenging leaders, essentially, in their diversity inclusion efforts.
Okay, that's it's not, I wouldn't say it's terribly clear, probably how it's written, because there's a difference of challenge in whether you are dealing with something in the spur of the moment or aggressively, or a continual growth in terms of helping an organisation and helping leaders to see how their decision making is going, their conversations are going, their plan, their strategy, that sort of thing, in terms of how you
So it's more the
challenge.
latter.
It's more the latter.
But there is, I guess, a point of talking to the former in the moment. So the situation that David described, if you was to talk to your former self or your younger self, what would you be telling yourself to do in that sort of moment?
Yeah, I would have stopped the meeting. I'm like, stop, let's hold up. Let's back up 1 second right now, yeah? Let's back up. You know, and it would be, what did you just say? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that would cause an immense amount of tension around the table. People would wonder, am I going to flip out? Mm-hmm. You know, what's going to happen? And all of a sudden, what that does for people in a room is actually make them woke, right? They wake up and they start to think, what's going on? And I'm going to give you an example when this happened about 4 years ago. I was doing a consulting gig and I was invited on a golf day. So I walked into the room, the group of men, so they usually are a group of men in financial services, male-dominated, all look more or less the same, and they would stand around, they were laughing, and I kind of walked up. The guy had a mobile phone, and I thought, all right. And he showed me a picture of a black man with a large appendage, and they were having a laugh about it, and he said, is that you? Right. So I didn't find it funny, because he kind of thought I was funny. So he got this from me. All of a sudden, he went bright red. His friend started to whittle away, walk away, and I said, look, that's not on. What are you doing? He said, oh, it was only a laugh. Laugh for who? Right? And then it just became very, very tense. So a small family-run company, one of the directors came over to me, and he said, that's not on, I'm going to have a word. I said, I'd like to be there when you have the word. I want to be there when you have the word. And the reason being is because some people soften the story. You know, soften how I feel. Because I need to let them know exactly how I feel and why it's not okay. You know, I've got 2 sons, and I'll tell you something now, this is not going to happen when they get into the corporate world, because people like me are going to stand up and tell you, you can't do that anymore. You know, it's not acceptable. If you want to go and hide in a corner somewhere, do not bring it into my door. So for me, it's important that you challenge leadership around what they do and how they do it, because they don't necessarily know. And if you think, a lot of people actually haven't encountered racism. If you're a white male, you may never have encountered racism in your life. If you're then in a position of leadership where you have to deal with it, what do you do? You know, how do you deal with it? What do you say? What are the words you use? You know, oh, you know, really, you know, that unfortunate word that you said there. You know, David felt a little bit upset. You know, perhaps don't do it again. No, it's not that at all. It's, do you know what? That is totally unacceptable. We don't have people like that around here. Yeah, if that is how you are, you need to move on. That's the conversation. And then you want me in the background just doing that. Yeah, so that is how you challenge leadership. You know, you have to be there. You have to be part of the conversation.
I completely agree with that. However,
yes,
I think we were talking about the age element earlier on.
Yes, we were, yeah.
and especially when you're new in an organisation as well, you're worried about holding on to your job. Even as a consultant, I go into many organisations and I see things that they're doing and saying that's not right. And I'm also a human being. I'm also someone that has a family to feed, you know, and I also have holidays to feed, you know, all those sorts of the human things. So there is always that dilemma about, should I say something or should I not? And I think you should always say something, but we have to work on how we get stronger and stronger at saying, at challenging, and then learning how to challenge, because like everything, this is all about learning. And like everything, we as human beings aren't born with, you know, it all going on. We are in a lifetime of learning. So learning how to challenge, learning how to have that conversation, learning what words to use, learning timing sometimes, all of those sorts of things is a process. And my encouragement would be, go for it and learn. Learn from anything you experience, come back and say, okay, how did that work? What did I learn? How can I do that differently? But also, we talked about who we hang out with. I can hear my microphone at the back of my head. Hang out with people that are going to help you to learn. You know, people that have created that space where you can honestly say, I don't know what to do, or I did this, and I realized it was wrong, yeah, I'm embarrassed about it, but how can I progress from that? So challenging, going back to the question, is a process of learning, but it comes from being bold, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's also an element of, because we've all done that. We've all been in that workspace where you do that automatically. You come in, you look around the room, you're like, okay, it's just me today. Am I going to be the representation of all the black people? And so again, it also comes from that place of that your leadership are a reflection of who is also not in the room. And if we are not in those spaces of seniority, then they have to speak on our behalf, and they have to do it with education and conviction. So it's also that the leadership have to be creating a place that is truly inclusive of difference and truly inclusive of people. Because without that, we can go in and we can challenge and we can be bold, and then we might also face the stereotypes of, oh, well, you know, you're just being loud and outspoken, because actually it comes from that mentality or that age of it's a bit of a boys' club, or they've always done things this way. So it's about challenging the leadership, absolutely, but it's also challenging your leadership to educate themselves and to catch up, because this isn't something new. This is something that they should have always done. But it's actually, have they always been held accountable? And I think as employees, we are now more informed to hold them to account.
Absolutely.
Because we're actually speaking to each other. You're, you know, the advice that people are taking from just listening to you both, you all here, will be something that might help someone else. It's about continuing to having that dialogue too.
Absolutely.
And when you do have to call it out, sometimes it is that other person that calls it out on your behalf, so that you can just stand back with a bit of safety, because otherwise you might become the problematic one.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think in that sense, expanding that leadership table is so important. And when we say representation matters, it includes making sure that leadership is a representation of not just the workforce, but the community and the wider society. Because then you don't have to have that black colleague or any other minority colleague who feels like, oh, I'm the representation today. Because when they look around the organization, they're the representation of that identity, and the onus is on them. So if we're doing Pride, it's like, okay, so today you have to tell us something. If we're doing the Islamophobia awareness conversation, okay, why don't you tell us something about Islam or something? Do you know what I mean? So by making sure the leadership table includes more representation and more people that look like the communities and the people that you're talking about, then that makes that uncomfortable conversation easier, because people can talk to someone that they can actually relate to.
And it becomes more of a regular conversation,
Yeah.
not just something that happens occasionally.
I was just going to add, you know, you should go to your network. So if you've got networks internally, have a conversation with someone there, and ensure that your network is strong enough to have that conversation with a CEO if need be. You know, you can get rid of names, but they need to have that conversation, understand what's going on in their organisation.
And I love that, because many organisations have created these different network groups, whether it's black workers or LGBT plus, or, you know, disabilities, disabled networks. There are all of those networks out there, but are they being used?
Yeah. Great question to probably throw in at this point. Emily asks, how can we use our BAME networks to make the biggest difference? Having been chair at a large charity, it can become peer support and emotionally taxing for chairs to fight the barriers at the top.
Good question.
Do you mind if I come in on that?
Yeah, please.
So for me, it comes down to the strength of the network and the relationship they have with the board. Yeah, because if the board have only got a network for you to have a little talking shop, you actually haven't got a network, and you really cannot influence the organisation. So I would say that the first thing that you do is invite the board to a network meeting. Let them understand who you are, let them understand the challenges that are faced in the organisation, and ask for permission, to raise grievances directly with them that you receive through your network. Because once that door is open, they're not going to be ready for the flood that comes through. But if it does come through, they have to deal with it. So it really is about creating that relationship with the board of directors and the network. You know, it's not there to just be a closed shop. One of the best organisations I've worked with or done a talk, they had a network event. I had myself and Sir Ken speaking, and there was people from every different genre in the room. You know, it wasn't just a black network. You know, it was a network for all. You know, I don't know the colour of your husband. I don't know the colour of your children. I don't know your sexuality. So why would we not all come together if we all truly believe in actually creating an equal world and an equal workplace?
And I 100% agree with that. And also, in response to that question, there needs to be, or there should be, someone from the board who is a sponsor of the BAME network or any other network, so that you have that, you're building that relationship. And maybe if you are the chair, you could get someone from the board to be your sponsor into that network, if that makes sense.
I would have said exactly the same. Get a sponsor, make sure that your network is imperative to the business model, and make sure that they give you a budget.
Yeah.
And if you have a budget, then that means that it's accountable to the business, and therefore your voice and your what you do has more weight. But it's also about your network holding yourselves accountable. So what's your network's vision and your mission? What are you going to do to help change the business and work together with your executive sponsor or your board to actually have some key bullet points for that?
Absolutely.
And then it becomes business critical, and that's how she'll get more support.
And to bring in a bit of well-being into the conversation as well, because you said like you're finding it taxing. Don't shoulder it on your own. You really don't have to shoulder it on your own. There's great power in collectivism, and there's great power in talking to people and sharing what's going on in your head and bringing, sense of community that fight with you. So 100%. Don't, let it tax you. You got this.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ifra. So we are going to open the Q&A to the audience with us. We've had some virtual questions already, and thank you for all of you who are with us virtually, who put your questions and your comments in. Absolutely brilliant. Appreciate your involvement. And so the audience sitting in front of me and looking at you now, if you've got a question or a comment, something you want to raise, just raise your hand, and we will come over to you with a microphone. I shall leave you thinking about that. If they're all like, oh my God, I can see that.
I've probably got another question that I can throw out there.
Okay. Yeah, we're going to keep an eye on time, but go ahead. Have we got a question? Oh, we've got a question. Two. Was that one or two?
Yes.
Might check 1, 2.
I started thinking about this during Keisha's performance, that as a queer person I've experienced the difficulty of trying to find my authentic self, and through the representation that I've seen before me from when I was a teenager to growing up, that I might believe that there is a way to be who I am. Is there anyone on the panel who can speak to that as a black person?
Okay.
I am evolving every single day based on what I didn't see. Dr. Ronks has a saying, you cannot be what you do not see. And so what I didn't see growing up, and the examples of what black women should be, black working parents should be, black queer women, when that's not there, or it's a stereotype based on other people's ideas. I have gone to community. I have gone into my community, and that's where I've been able to see other people who are different versions of me, other people who are openly queer of differing races, of different gender identities, who live in the fullness of themselves in safety. I don't think we're ever made. I don't think we're ever finished. I think, if I'm honest, I'm really discovering myself in the last 3 or 4 years, and I'm going to be 40 next year, and I've still got so much more to do, and every day is a new evolution of myself. What I find strength and courage in is actually being around my chosen family, being around those other people who see me. Representation truly does matter, but even if I just find one other person who can celebrate what I find so wonderful about myself, that for me is the most important. So I would tell you, find that, and it's absolutely out there. You just have to look for it, but don't ever be afraid to be yourself, because there will always be someone that sees that. and the first person that sees that has to be you, and it has to be you when you look in the mirror. But you look like a wonderful person, so keep being you.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And I agree 100%. I don't think we're born finished. You know, it's a life of discovery. And sometimes we think, you know, yellow hair today, oh, get up tomorrow. Nah, I don't quite like that. There is no, this is what a human being should be. It is, for every single one of us, it's a continual journey. And I say, follow the joy. Whatever makes you feel good, that's what you need to follow. Forget what everybody else says that you should be. If long hair makes you feel good, do that. Tomorrow morning you might wake up and think, oh, I'm tired of this. I'm going to cut it all off. If that makes you feel good, be that. And that is the way you will find your authentic self. Your authentic self is a part of you that makes you feel the absolute best with everything that you already have. Skin color, gender, eye color, whatever it may be, because you are a unique human being on this earth. There is no other person and will never ever be another person that is you.
Amazing. Can I just quickly come in?
Yeah.
What's your name, sorry? Stephen, it's so nice to meet you. Thank you so much for being here today. My authentic self has a lot of labels, like in terms of my faith, my culture. I'm a black woman, as you can see, but I'm African specifically, I'm Somali specifically, and I'm British. I am somebody who's obsessed with Harry Potter, and I was telling Emma up until last night I was watching Lord of the Rings, and there's all of these things that make me my authentic self. But according to society, there are labels that we're given based on what everybody else perceives us to be. I'm followed by whatever the news says about me and my faith on a daily basis, and that's something that I either sometimes have to apologize for, or sometimes have to fear, and sometimes be extra cautious if I'm walking on a train station wondering who's gonna pull my scarf, which actually did happen at one time. That's why I no longer wear pins under my scarf this way. I only wear them up here, because that time the pin actually went into my neck and I had to, you know, make sure that that never happens again. So it's, my authentic self is being proud of who I am, but at the same time facing the daily struggles of everybody else's perception of my identity. And it's really hard to do that, Stephen, for all of us, to be living in a society where somebody else has an idea of who we are based on something they read or based on something that they were told. But it's up to us to live our best selves, as Sandra just said, and to, whether you change your hair or put on layers of different colored scarves because you feel like it today, whatever that makes you happy, be you, and it will be under your control. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions from the audience? Yep, one more there. Great.
Hi, my name's Zora. The question I have is, we've talked a lot today about buy-in from senior leaders and how to get allyship from your leaders in the business. The question I have is more relating to when you're early on in your network and the development of your network and creating it, how do you get buy-in from other BAME colleagues to help you? There's a bit of a stigma sometimes where people feel like they don't want to be involved, they want to stay in the shadows a little bit more, they feel like it might have a negative impact on their career if they kind of talk up. What would you say your advice is to both the leads of the network who are trying to create it and also BAME colleagues that want to get involved?
I'll say quite simply, go where the light is. Yeah, if you go where the light is, others will follow. And they may not follow at the pace that you want them to, but the more people who create that light and the lightning starts to expand, it will draw more people to it. Listen, throughout my career, 'cause I've been in financial services, I grew up in the East End of London, working class boy, you know, I've been labelled everything, you know, coconut, sellout, to militant, black, by all kinds of different people, whether they're black, they're white. So people always throw a label at you. You know, we talked just now about being your authentic self. And when you want people to buy into your vision, yeah, you just have to be your authentic self and talk about why you're doing what it is that you're doing and what you hope to achieve from it. You know, I work with a number of organisations. We've got 34 partners that sponsor the Alito Foundation. And through doing that, you know, particularly post George Floyd, you know, we were actually had quite a lot of interest in people who wanted to donate to us all of a sudden. Yeah, all of a sudden people want to donate to us. They want to put their label over the work that we're actually doing. And I turned down, when we didn't have much money in the bank, a large sum of money from a large bank. And our chairman went bonk. He said, "What are you doing?" But the conversation I had with the woman was purely around virtue signalling. They had no senior leadership that were black or Asian. They were in a position whereby they did not have a plan in place as to how they were going to get more people into those positions. But what they wanted to do was to take our young people and bring them in entry level. To go where? And these are my children. Yeah, 700 of them are my children. So you're telling me I'm going to put my children with you for you to just stunt their growth? It can't work. And there are enough people out there, that you will work with you to actually help change the face of boards and companies in the FTSE 100. And that's the same for networks. People may not come with you straight away, but work with the people that want to come with you.
Absolutely. And definitely be clear about what your aims and objectives are. Why have you formed this group? What is it that you are looking to do to change? Going back to a point made earlier on, and what is the organisation strategy? It's not just creating a little group to be out there, but you need to tap into helping the organisation to achieve some of their objectives from and within your BAME group, if that makes sense. So try and make that connect. Does that help? Okay, thank you. Yes, please, Claire.
Networks are places to make change. That it's also a safe space. For a lot of networks, regardless of which network it is, it's a place for those like-minded people to come together, to have a place of safety, to talk about issues, but also talk about how you might make change together. And it's more nuanced based on a BAME network, a black network, an LGBT network. It's that specific part of that community that's coming together. So you are inspiring each other to actually have a place where you can talk about the issues, but also how you can make change together. And then, like we said, it's about how is your business going to help make that change too. And that's a contract. A network is a contract between your business, but also you as the individuals of colour. So I would make sure, actually, this is how we are going to make fundamental change. But as a business, this is a contract of how you are going to support us in doing that. And once you have that foundation, then you will probably find that there will also be more people who are afraid to stick their head up above the parapet, to actually be leading and be seen as all of those stereotypes that we actually have to face on a day-to-day basis. It's that part about how do you find that ally, which is your executive sponsor? How do you find that person who's going to show up and speak on your behalf and help give you that little bit of safety to get that confidence, to feel empowered, to bring other people to do it? But I think most of us would actually be able to answer to this. If you're really going to make change, sometimes that's a bit lonely. Sometimes it's not about you, it's about the work, it's about the change. And so again, be bold in that, and you will find those people who want to help do that with you and be on that journey with you, and that they will show up, and they won't always look like you. But if you're creating a space that's about difference, your BAME network, Black network, Embrace network, it should have people of all colours, of all identities, because that's how you truly celebrate difference.
Absolutely. I'm very conscious of time at the moment. And we could talk about this for a long time. But one of the points that I want to make sure that we don't lose the opportunity to share about is the work of Black leaders in particular. We're doing some research in partnership with Nielsen IQ on helping corporate organisations, large organisations, not only make these changes that we're looking about, but finding out about how the people within your organisation see the changes that you're making. And we've got some juicy research information that's due to be coming out soon. I know, I'm such a tease. That's due to be coming out soon, but I'm just going to throw this to Nathan, because Nathan and I are members of the Black Inclusion Index. So Nathan, we were talking about this, and we were talking about one juicy bit of information that the most recent research is showcasing. Do you want to comment on that briefly?
Sure. So just to give a bit of context to the index, the first sort of stage was identifying or understanding the perspectives of black and non-black employees in the UK workforce today. So it went across 1,000 employees, small, medium and large organisations, and just a number of questions to assess perspective on inclusion. I think one of the most telling points was the divergence and difference between the lived experience of black people and their perspective on inclusion versus non-black employees. So in most cases there was a 20-point difference between the perception of inclusion for black employees and those from the perspective from non-black colleagues. So you know, there's going to be stuff to unpack there. There's going to be some that's going to be feeling and versus reality, but the difference, I think the journey that organisations need to go on is one around getting representation right in the first place, but then you need to fix that bucket, because ultimately if people are getting into the organisations and they're not feeling included, they're going to leave.
Yeah.
And so if you just keep getting people in there and you haven't got that solid bucket to keep people there, then naturally you're fighting a losing battle. So I think the key sort of takeaway from there for me is that perception and really understanding what the lived experiences of your black colleagues within your business.
Yeah. And for those who have a network, it's about, you know, getting your organisation to get involved in the Black Inclusion Index so that they can really find out what's going on within your organisation and how can you get, you know, real benchmarking information to really make a difference. And that will include all of us, because an organisation is a legal entity on its own, but it's made up from the people like us that are in it. So if you want to find out more about that, Google blackleaders.co.uk, and under their list of activities you'll find Black Inclusion Index. Now, oh gosh, this has been amazing. I'm going to put, we are closely running out of time, so I'm going to put one question. This is the last question to our panel. I'd like you to be as succinct as you possibly can. So tell me of a time when you really felt proud of your identity. I'm going to start from this side. So it's you, Nathan. Yes.
He's like, I'm checking questions.
Yeah.
You're checking questions. Yeah, Nathan, go on.
What was the question? Sorry.
Okay, tell me about a time, or tell us about a time when you really felt proud of your identity.
Mine is a non-work related, because I didn't know
That's
this question
okay.
was coming. But I feel really proud about Notting Hill Carnival, which those that know me, you know, I go there every year, and it's probably the highlight of my social calendar every single year for the last 16 years. And I think that for me is, you know, obviously that coming from a Caribbean background, Jamaican background, it's, you know, lots of nostalgia there. But I think seeing all different communities really enjoying and partaking in that magnificent event every single year, I feel really, really proud of, you know, that identity from coming from the West Indies and that being in, you know, West London and everyone galvanising around it. And Bob Marley and whatever else is playing, and you just feel really, really good. So that's probably my shooting from the hip response to that.
God, I'm feeling that when you say that. That's really good. Ifra.
I'm going to do kind of work-related one, but also life-related one. And it was about a decision that I made, which was a really good decision, and it kind of snowballed into amazing things. And that decision was to organize my calendar and to prioritize things. Often when we get invited to places and you're looking at your calendar, if it's jam-packed, you're thinking to yourself, I really can't go, I'm so busy, I can't do it. But I realized that day, by moving things around and actually attending this virtual online event, it was called Black Lives Still Matter, and it was hosted by someone really important to me in my community in Hackney. I attended it, and I realized that it was so worth it. I'm so glad that I did, because now I'm hosting that event. Because of the fact that I made that decision to not let my calendar and my busyness kind of distract me from saying I can't go, I moved things and I went. And so now, like, you know, November the 9th, make sure you all come online. And it's really important. So I think it was a really important lesson in the sense that when we've got a lot on in our plate, if we really just prioritize and organize things, there's always time for things. So I'm really proud of myself for doing that day.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. David?
I'm going to go with family. So we had an incident 3 years ago where my son was attacked at school. They were kicked and called an effing little N. And he was 12, so he'd just gone into to year 7, and by a boy who was 3 years older than him for no reason at all. And when I learned of that, I literally left where I was in Kent and got to Surrey in no time at all. And it's a wonderful school. My boys are privileged, definition of privilege. They both play golf, do wonderful things. And I just let loose. I let loose, you know. I educated the school on what it meant to be called the N-word. And they tried to say, well, we don't have that round here. Well, actually, what you don't have round here is parents like me that will come and confront you. I was banging the table, and I really made my voice heard. And then it dawned on me that because my sons had never faced racism before, this was going to be quite traumatic for him. But it then made me actually start to think about the school in another context. So I then started to look at all the pictures. All the pictures that had black children in were sports. Right? Both my sons are A students. Right? Why were they not in any other pictures? You know, things like when you start to look at school plays, you know, why were there no black children actually in the leads? So I really challenged them to start to think about that. My son had never seen a black motivational speaker. And all of a sudden the school accepted it. It wasn't as quick as that, but I had a long chat with the school, the governors, the head teacher. Immediately they put a budget in to get 3 black motivational speakers in. They then started to do Black History Month properly. And then when they start to look at cookery, and then start to talk about, you know, Caribbean, African, Indian cooking. So for me, I'm really proud that that situation has evolved some change in a tiny part of Surrey.
Oh, well done. Well done. It's good.
Cool.
Chloe?
Yeah, mine is family and school. So I was nominated for an award. I'm not going to mention, but
Why not?
I was nominated for, I was shortlisted, I should say, for National Diversity Awards, Positive LGBT Role Model. And it was my son's last day of school, and he came home with this little certificate that I had got, Positive Role Model of the Year at this school. Miles is autistic, so he will do what he wants to do when he wants to do it. And his teacher said that when they called out my name, he actually went and picked it up on the stage, and because they said it's for mummy, and he went and he got the award, and he came home and he gave it to me, and it was in his school bag. So it was one for him to actually do that, which is something that is quite uncomfortable for him, which I was really proud of him, but also to be acknowledged by his school in that way, for a school to be openly talking about LGBT people and celebrating it was really powerful. So yeah, it continues to make me proud that he's in the right place, that they're doing that, and also, you know, what that means to other children who may be children like me, but also neurodiverse children like my son.
Wonderful.
Wow.
Well done. That's wonderful.
Tom's kind of onions.
I still keep it in my diary. I keep the award with me. It's a nice little. Yeah.
So to our virtual audience, what I'd like to encourage you to do is to write something about when, you know, when was a time that you really felt proud to be your authentic self. And for those of us here, tweet. You've got your phones. Tweet, you know, tweet your little message about, you know, when was a time that you felt proud to be your authentic self. So, wow, what an amazing time we've had. Thank you so much for all of our panelists. You know, this has been quite informative, thought-provoking, certainly for me, and by the looks of, by you and the comments that we've received, certainly thought-provoking for all of you that have joined us today. I really hope that we've all found at least one element that we can take away with us from this wonderful event that we are committed to using, changing, and doing something with and about. And my hair is, again, I do apologise, but the microphone's sticking up in the back of my head. Sorry, and I can hear it. Shh, 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 shh. You know, over the last 2 decades, we've been celebrating Black History Month in October here in the UK. And, you know, from that time, every year, there's probably about 4,000 events that are planned and take part. And every year, this number is growing and growing. So think about yourselves. What are you going to be doing next year? We want to hear about it. What are you going to be doing next year to celebrate Black History Month? And for those of you who are not as beautiful chocolate brown as me, but other shades, Black History Month is for you too. So let us all get involved. Let us influence and inspire each other to be our authentic selves. And because this has been so changing, this Black History Month celebration, this has influenced and inspired other equalities across the world and in the UK to look at creating other months to celebrate their history, the hidden information and truth about them. So, you know, groups like LGBT plus disabilities, Bengali, Gypsy history communities, all looking at, you know, creating or ensuring that we create a time of the year where we spend the effort to focus on the truth of their communities so that we can all learn and grow. We wanted to highlight the multiplicity of Black diversity this year, to focus on the diversity and the beauty of Black cultures and communities here in the UK, to encourage collaboration towards moving to a place where we are all accepted for who we are and all of the little nuances and differences that that brings. We are proud to be a part of that. So, on behalf of Auto Trader UK, inclusive companies and Black leaders, thank you so much. Thank you to my incredible speakers and panelists. A round of applause. Thank you so much. It has been really delightful. And for me, it's been absolutely awesome because I've met these people online before. So this is the first time I'm actually touching flesh. It's wonderful. Thank you so much, Chloe Davis, David Villa-Clark, BEM, Ifra Samatar, and our performance artist, Keisha Thompson. And thank you, home. This is the first time I've been here to this wonderful venue. Thank you for sharing this glorious space with us. So as well as all of you who joined us virtually, again, thank you for your involvement, your comments, your questions. And for our audience here, thank you for your questions, your smiles, and your interest. It has been wonderful. I am looking forward to seeing you again at something next year. Thank you all very much. You should give yourself a round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. So I think that's pretty much it. Yes. Am I on time or a little bit early? A little, yeah. A bit over, that's just like us. But thank you all for joining us. Thank you. See you next time.
Bye. Thank you,
Bye-bye. Thank you.